Hello Internet, my name is the Golden Stalfos, and today we're talking about spooky shit, cause it's spooky season. But before we get into it, let's give a quick shout out to John. Thanks for watching, John. You got a good head on your shoulders. Don't let anyone steer you wrong. And if your name isn't John, then subscribe and maybe I'll say your name next time. Anyway, today we're here to talk about the scariest setting in all of history, Randianism. Or, just capitalism in general. Like, it's absolutely wild that the developers of Bioshock thought, you know what we need to make this philosophy scarier? Zombies in a sinking city. Like, nah, bro, that's completely overkill. Now, some people may disagree and say that Bioshock is too much of an action game to be considered a horror game. And, I mean, maybe a little bit, but it is tagged as horror on Steam, so fuck you? And quite frankly, that horror tag is all the excuse I need to talk about it at spooky season, so here we are. And let's be honest, Bioshock does depict an absolute nightmare of a world in which shitheads who read Ayn Rand got their way and, well, the inevitable happened. They all turned into zombies. They're already zombies in the metaphorical sense, but what else do you call a person that mindlessly regurgitates the dumbest ideas on the planet? A zombie. For anyone who somehow got here without knowing, Ayn Rand is that dipshit who wrote books like The Fountainhead and some others. They all have really fucking dumb names like that. And they're all basically about one big strong man taking over society and being a rugged individual, for the force of capitalism and fucking over everyone they look at. And that's presented as a good thing for some reason. It tries to couch it in this idea of objectivism, you're looking at the facts and examining, the distribution of resources and shit. But it always comes to the same shitty conclusion that, in order for anything to function, we just all have to be dicks to each other for no reason. Which, isn't true. At all. In fact, all evidence indicates that things function a lot better when people are not dicks to each other. And Bioshock is a game inspired by System Shock 2, which is based around what would happen if all these libertarian dipshits actually got their way and built their own society. And, oh look, it collapsed because they suck. It also kind of collapsed because they got infected with zombie nonsense, but you can't have a fun action shooter without a little sci-fi stuff. So you get to have magic powers, and all of the shitheads that you murder get to be zombies instead of just, libertarians. Which, realistically, libertarians are about as human as zombies. Let's be honest here. And the game is not in any way subtle about this, right? The opening moments of the film start with a monologue from the guy who started Rapture about how a man should own his own wealth and none of it should go to taxes or charity. How dare you support other human beings in their existence? The audacity. It's just such a weird fucking shithead way to talk about life. How dare other people exist and have needs and expect each other to help? Come on. I skipped kindergarten. I never learned about sharing and caring. And so obviously the society started by a bunch of people who hate the idea of sharing society with people is doomed to fail because fucking duh. And of course, when this society discovered that they could inject themselves with superpowers and give disproportionate advantages even more explicitly than they already had, well, that just accelerated things. Also, maybe building a society completely underwater is a bit dangerous for creatures that don't breathe water? So that comes to bite them in the ass. And all of this is great, and, I wish more games and major popular media in general would be about how fucking dumb capitalists are. But on the other hand, this is a first-person shooter about a singular, rugged individual walking into a ruined society, killing everything, and then leaving richer than he started, so there's a little bit of dissonance there in that messaging. In fact, games journalists talking about Bioshock is where the term ludonarrative dissonance came from, for exactly that reason. So, I'm not the first one to see it. I do sympathize with the developers on that front, though. I mean, there's not really a good way to make a game about the failure of capitalism without, I don't know, being a sim. Like maybe if it was like a city builder and you got to see how like all of your capitalist decisions lead to short-term gains and long-term collapse. But even then, I think people would kind of miss the point and just try to min-max things. And it's really hard to put an actual narrative into a sim game like that. So, I mean, the fact that the game is a shooter and only has one perspective and all that is just kind of a trap of the genre. Of course, it could also have been about a small group of people who, like, come into the ruins of Rapture and get exposed to its disaster, minus the sci-fi nonsense, and then decide to, like, rebuild a better society that ignores all these stupid philosophies, and then that would probably work. That could be narratively driven. It could be like a survival crafting type thing. Maybe someone will do something with that at some point. As for Bioshock, it went on to kind of keep up the legacy of its narrative, but mostly just become a fun action shooter with cool set pieces and stuff, which is fine, but, I mean, kind of lose something in it. Bioshock Infinite kind of goes back to its message, but it gets so wrapped up in the sci-fi nonsense and the action set pieces that it's kind of hard to tell. But there is definitely a vibe that, like, 1950s America is fucked, which, fair, it is. But I don't know if that's as strong of a message as just fuck Ayn Rand, am I right? And I know, like, libertarians are going to try and, like, defend Ayn Rand and talk about things about her life, like, oh, she grew up under communism and that's why. But, like, let's be real, the Russian state wasn't practicing communism. They were a state-run capitalism, and they just mistreated and underpaid their employees the way any capitalist system would, but, nationwide, plus dictatorship. So, of course, people didn't like living there. And of course, when they were presented with the ever so slightly freer version of capitalism that is practiced in the West, they were like, oh, fuck, this is great. Because the whole thing about capitalism is that it creates the illusion of choice. If you don't like working for Microsoft, you can go work for Google. Like, I guess, maybe, if you're lucky. But more likely you're not working for Microsoft or Google. You're working for literally anyone who will take you because you're poor and need to pay bills. And in that situation, you don't have any choice. You don't have any freedom. You can't go somewhere else because you're just going to the first place that takes you. Because you have to. Not because you want to be there, but because you have to be there. Because otherwise you will starve on the street. Because capitalists own everything and they won't give it to you without money. Because capitalists don't care about people. They care about money. And I can think of nothing more horrifying than that. To be so cruel and callous and disconnected from life that you think, who cares if people starve? I get to have a number in my account. That's what matters, right? And the insane hoops that people jump through to try and justify this cruelty, to try and say, no, actually, it's good that we hurt people and brutalize them and let them starve on the street because we want big number on our sheet. That's what's best for society. That's the only way things can ever be. That's the way it's always been. It's all that works, even though it's not the way things have always been, and it doesn't work. Capitalism is the result of feudalism collapsing on itself and merchants taking over from nobles, but maintaining the same structures of oppression that the nobles used. It's not great, and it's not the way things have always been, and it's not the only way things can be. And it does lead to an inevitable collapse of society because society can't function off a bunch of shitheads who hate each other. Duh. So you know what, this Halloween, go back and enjoy some real true horror and replay Bioshock because it's fun. And don't let those capitalists lie to you. They don't give a shit about you or your life. They want you to turn into zombies so that they can make money off of selling you the zombie juice. That's all they care about. Anyway, Viva la Revolution. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next life. Laters. Hey, Endcard here. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Like, seriously though, please subscribe. I have no subscribers. It's sad. If you want to find me on other social media stuff, you can do that at the Golden Stalfos on basically everything. Links to that are in the description, as well as to some charities I like but am obviously not affiliated with. I also have a Patreon if you like me so much that you want to give me money, though obviously only do that if you have money to burn, and if you do have money to burn, they're the charities I mentioned before. They probably need it more than I do. Mad ups to my girlfriend for doing all the editing for these videos. It's a really big help. Oh, and I occasionally stream on Twitch, so follow me there so you don't miss it. I don't have a formal schedule because when I tried to have a formal schedule, I couldn't keep to it, so oh well. Okay, thanks, bye!